What's up, fam? Welcome to our home. I am Dr. Damon. This is my beautiful wife.
Shantae.
We are the Smiths. This is Ritual or Poor Marriage Podcast, where we are contributing to the health and wealth of marriages. If this is your first time joining us, click that subscribe, click that like, click that share. We would like to welcome you into our family, to our tribe.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's
Drop
go.
the beat, DJ.
You ready, sweetie?
I'm ready.
You sure you ready?
Sure.
All right, DJ, drop that beat.
Boop, 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 boop.
So, if you didn't get a chance to check out the last podcast, we talked about covenant and the importance of covenant and the fact that when you get into a covenant with someone, you're not only entering into a covenant with the person you're entering into marriage with, but you're also entering into a covenant with God.
Yes.
Right. And so if you didn't catch that podcast, make sure you go back, check out the podcast on covenant, right? This week or month, we're going to talk about the vows, right? Because oftentimes when we enter into marriage, we stand before that preacher, that pastor, that minister, and we say vows.
Mm-hmm.
And there are traditional vows, and nowadays people like to write their own vows. But we're going to dive deeper into the traditional vows, right?
Yeah.
Because not only should you understand that you're entering into a covenant when you enter into a marriage union, but when you say those vows, they actually mean something, right? And too often in life, people say things that they don't mean.
Yes.
If I ask you, how are you doing today? I may not really want to know how you're doing. I was just being polite. That was something I may not mean. People do it all the time. You know, you walk up to somebody, hey, how's it going? Sometimes you want to know how it's really going. Sometimes you don't. All that to say, there are times when we say things we don't really mean.
Yes.
But when you enter into a marriage, you're standing there before God, before a crowd of witnesses, and hopefully you understand what you're saying. You've thought about the actual vows. You've thought about what it means to actually say the words to someone you profess your love to, right? One of the things we used to do after we first got married is every year on our anniversary, we would actually go back and listen to our marriage vows. You remember that? We haven't done that in years, but we used to do it. But two reasons we haven't done it.
Because
2 reasons. One reason, our vows was on a cassette tape. So you know how long ago that was. People don't even use cassette tapes no more.
Right.
And number 2, we probably can't find that cassette tape. You still have it?
No, you don't have it?
No, I don't have it. So we've lost it. But the beautiful thing is the vows we said are ingrained in our heart and we hold on to them. So we could recite them right now, you know? And that's one thing you should think about, even in your marriage. The beautiful thing about saying the traditional vows is you can always go back and repeat those vows to one another, you know, each year of your marriage, just to reinforce the fact that you are willing to continually commit to those vows, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so you ready to jump in, sweetie?
I'm ready.
All right, check it. So the first thing we often say is, I take you to be my lawfully wed husband or wife, right? That's the first statement. I take you,
Okay.
or I, Damon, take you, Shantae, right? So the first thing is I. I think it's important that you know who you are before you go into a marriage.
Yeah.
It's important that you know who you are. You know what you believe about yourself, right? You know what you believe about the future. You know what you believe about your purpose. You know what you believe about your calling. You know exactly who you are and who you were created to be. Not to say that you're not going to learn throughout your journey of life and marriage, but you should go into it knowing, or at least having, a solid idea about who you are.
Yeah, that's true. I can't even say that now that I think about it. And what, 22 years ago that like I knew who I was.
Yeah.
I I can't say that I did.
And I think sometimes what happens is because we don't fully know who we are, we go into it blinded sometimes.
Yeah. And
Because when we don't know who we are, there are certain expectations we bring into it for someone else. So how can you expect something from me that I don't even expect from myself, or that I don't even know about myself, right? You know, one of the things I often say is that when we talk about trust in relationships, right? How can I ask you to trust me if I don't even trust myself? And I can't trust myself if I can't be honest with myself. So if I've never had an honest conversation with myself about who I am, how can I expect you to trust me and trust who I am when I can't even trust myself because I don't know who I am? So I think it's important for you to know who you are before you go into marriage.
yes, absolutely. I.
And so once you know who you are, then you can say, I take you. I take you. So essentially, you're saying, I make the choice. This is my choice. This is my decision. I'm responsible for the choices I make, and I choose you.
Yes. And I think when you say um, I choose, I
I
take
take you.
you, sometimes we say I take you, and sometimes you don't even know who you're taking. You would like to know who you're taking. Like, am I taking a man that is equally yoked with my religious values? Am I taking a man who wants children? Am I taking his whole family? Who am I taking? And sometimes we don't know who we're taking, and sometimes we don't know who we've actually taken until we get in the marriage years down the road, and then you find out I was taking his mother, who was his number one from day one, and you was number two. So who am I taking? I'm taking his whole family. So when I say I take you, meaning I take everything about you, right?
Everything about me.
Everything.
Everything about me. My student loan debt.
Oh, yes. Yes. You take everything, really. You take
The
everything.
way I eat my cereal.
And smacking. Yes, I take that.
The way I clean the house or don't clean the house.
Yes, we take all of that.
All of that, right?
We take the weight that you may gain, the weight that you may lose. We take on it all.
You take it all. And, you know, I'm glad you said that because it's important to understand when you're taking on, um, when you're bringing someone together, because you know the Bible says the two shall become one.
Yes.
That means it's no longer you and I, right?
Is
It's
us.
us. It's no longer what I want. It's no longer what you want. It's what we want.
It's what we
And we
want.
have to come to an agreement about what we want. Because when we stand at that altar and I say, I take you, and you say, you take me, we've admitted to the world that we've chosen one another
Right.
and that we've chosen no longer to be single.
We've chosen no longer to be
We've
single.
chosen to no longer to think like we're single
Yes. And no, yes, to think, to
and
move.
no longer to act like we're single.
Exactly.
So when we stand there and we start with these vows saying, I take you, you're saying, I choose you and I choose to let the world know that I no longer should be considered a single man. I should no longer be considered someone who thinks like a single man. I should no longer be considered someone who moves like a single man. I should no longer be considered one who lives like a single man.
Yes. Tell the women.
And so
Tell the
that's what
men. Help
happens
them out.
when we say, I take you.
That's so good. I take you.
To be my lawfully wedded wife or husband. Right? Because what happens is we become one. So if we're one, we don't know where you end and I began, and you don't know where I end and you began.
Yeah.
We have to get to that place of agreement. How can two walk together unless they agree?
They agree.
That's the first thing we need to understand. Now, that doesn't always mean that there won't be any disagreement along the way, but we commit to always finding agreement, right?
Yeah, that's important.
We commit to always finding agreement. And so the first vow, I take you to be my lawfully wedded husband or wife, right? Meaning that the single life is over. We're entering into a new life together.
What about those when when we take those marriage vows and we say, you're taking them, and we take everything about your husband, about your wife. You take everything. That husband, uh, you know, who thinks that when they get married that they can continue to act like they're single. And she may do the same thing as well, right? And when you become one, when you become a husband, and when you become a wife, you no longer get to have that, you know, that singleness about you. You're no longer single, so you can't act like you're single, move like you're single anymore. What do you think about the men or women that feel that when they get married they can still have, and I think we may have talked about this before, they can still have their own single relationships, or when they go they move single, when they go out they don't tell their wife, their spouse, that they're going out. They just get to go out and do what they want to do, and they feel like they don't have to, just, communicate with their spouse about them going certain places. They're still basically moving like they're still single. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know that's not how we move. When I'm going somewhere, or if I'm accepting an engagement, we talk, and I say we make sure that we don't have anything planned together before we go out and do our own thing. What would you what advice would you give somebody that's maybe going through that situation where they don't want to talk to consult their husband or consult their wife?
What
And because that's a big deal, because some men and some women are still moving like they are single, and they are married whole, like you a whole husband and you a whole wife, but you act like you're single, and that you don't have to communicate with your spouse about what you're doing because you're still acting as if you're single.
So, you know, what I would say about that is that I think there is a difference between understanding individuality and singleness versus self identity, right? And I see your face, so I'm
Yes,
going to
help
break it
me out,
down, right?
please.
Because you can maintain your self identity, meaning that who you are at your core, at your center, and give up your individuality, which means that you let go of the need to be an individual. Like you let go of the need to um, be solo or isolated. I think that it's a choice, and understanding when you come into a marriage, you share with the world that you made the choice to get married. And so there's some things that you give up when you make that decision. And one of those things is your individuality. You're no
Yes.
longer an individual, meaning that you can no longer move like it's only you. You're responsible, or you should feel some level of responsibility for the person you're committed to. When you exchange vows, what you're saying is that I'm committing myself to you and to God. And so if I break my vow with you, I then am breaking my vow with him.
Yes.
And he has the right to hold me accountable for breaking it. See, there's a difference between responsibility and accountability. See, I can feel responsible, but someone can hold me accountable. So, what I mean by that is if I commit, that means I'm accountable for what I've done. So, that means you can hold me accountable.
Mm-hmm.
You can say you did not meet the standard for which you set. And because you didn't meet that, there are consequences for it, right? If I'm responsible, I can look at myself and say, I didn't meet the standards that I set. And we want to be both responsible and accountable. See, some people want to completely dismiss accountability. That's why they want to be single even though they're married, because they don't want to be held accountable for their actions.
That's good.
See, when you don't want to be held accountable, then you're liable to do things intentionally or unintentionally to break the standard or to break the bond or to break the commitment because you don't want the accountability that's involved in marriage. See, we take on responsibility, but then we become accountable to one another. And if I can't hold you accountable and you can't hold me accountable, then we really haven't become one.
Right.
And so when it comes to that person that wants to, as you say, live in their singleness, though they're married, I would challenge them to accept not only responsibility for their actions, but accountability with their spouse.
You hear that, spouses?
So, all that
That's good.
to say, I take you to be my wife. The next vow says to have and to hold.
To have
To
and
have
to
and to
hold.
hold. So, what does it mean to have and to hold, right? Because when you think about it, there's a level of intimacy involved
I
in
was
that.
gonna say, you mean like hold me, like caress me, like
I
all that?
mean, that's real right there.
To
When I say
have and to hold. I don't even know if I ever like really took that part into like really like into consideration. Like, what did that mean?
so,
Tell
to
me.
have and to hold. So I can say,
I'll have.
may I have you? That means you have freely given up yourself
Ooh,
to enter into this marriage. So not only does that invoke a level of intimacy, right? Physical, emotional, sexual, right? But also there's a level of care that's required when you give someone your heart. So I have to understand now I have your heart
ooh,
and I'm holding your heart. And if I care for you and I have your heart and I'm holding it and I care for it, then I'm not going to drop it. I'm going to hold tight to it. I'm going to make sure it's safe.
mm-hmm.
See, we got to think about that. If you give me your heart and I have it and I hold it, it's my responsibility to make sure it's safe.
Yes, and it's getting what it needs. It's getting the oxygen that it needs. It gets everything that it needs.
I got to make sure you get what you need
Yes,
emotionally, physically,
so that you can function and do.
sexually,
Yes.
all of that. So when I say to have and to hold, I'm talking about incorporating all of that into not only a physical connection, but a spiritual connection.
That's good.
Because oneness is more than just physical, it's spiritual. And so I'm committing to that.
Not, because a lot of times, to have and to hold, sometimes people can, they take, in a marriage, we tend to take things, we can take our spouses for granted, right? And we don't give them the care that they need. And sometimes we can mishandle our spouse. We can mishandle their heart.
Yeah.
We can mishandle how we love them and how we treat them and how they carry us. We can mishandle that. And, you know, that is just, that to me, that's powerful to have and to hold because I never really thought about it. It was just a part of the vow that I said, but I really didn't take really into consideration that part of it, even though I do it. But to think like, because I really don't think that some people really even know what that means. Because if they did, to know that when you take somebody, you are actually taking that, they're taking their heart. You have their heart. They've given you their heart. They've given you everything about them. And then when we misuse it and we mistreat it, that there can be some harm that's done when we don't care for them the way that we should care for them. And It's just like, you're taking that, you said, we're giving you our heart. We're giving you our heart. And so when you have a heart is getting the oxygen supply that it needs in order for it to beat, right? You get that your heart is, the blood is flowing through from your, the heart and all of that good stuff. But when you are being deprived of some things, you're not getting what you need. You're not getting what you need.
That's right.
And that can go for, to have somebody's heart and you say, hey, you know, I give you my body. I give you my body. But if you choose to say, I don't want to give you, I don't want to give that part of you. I don't want to give that part of me to you. And then you deprive them of that. And then they feel those insecurities and they don't feel valued and they don't feel loved, right? And that they get that deprivation. They don't get what they need. And that's when it causes those other things to happen. And you question, like, do you really value my heart?
Yeah. Think about it. How many times have you received a package and on the box it said handle with care?
Mm.
And so you're extremely aware of the fact that something delicate may be inside.
Yes.
And so when you see a package with the handle with care stamped on the outside, you're gentle. You don't just throw it down, you place it down. Or when you open it, you don't just rip the box off. You gently remove the tape, right? There's a level of care, meaning that there's a level of compassion that's involved in not only opening the package, but the fact that there's something inside that's delicate that you want to make sure that you don't break.
Yes.
Right?
And you don't break with words, right?
You don't break with words, actions. It's like the Bible says that your heart will be where your treasure is.
Mm.
So what you treasure, that's where you'll find your heart. So if I value you, if you are of any worth, that's going to be displayed by my actions. Like, I can't talk to you any kind of way. I can't treat you any kind of way.
Right.
Because of how I value you. Because of your importance to me. And even when we, sometimes we're like any married couple, there are times where we have disagreements. And, sometimes there have been times where we've had heated disagreements, right? Mm-hmm. And I can recall we were discussing something and immediately my voice went up. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, like, that's not even your character, number one. But number two, that's your wife. Like, show her the same type of respect that you would want. See, and when we come to see each other as one, because that's what's supposed to happen, when I see you, I'm supposed to see me.
See me, yes.
It's like I'm supposed to be looking in a mirror. That's how close we're supposed to get. That's what oneness is. Like, when I look in the mirror, I'm supposed to see you.
Yeah.
And when I look at you, I'm supposed to see me. And I wouldn't hurt me.
Right.
I want to make sure I'm good, right? And so that's the same thing. That's the same way we're supposed to treat our spouses.
Yeah, because when you raise your voice.
I know.
My feelings is immediately hurt
Yeah, I know.
because he does not raise his voice.
I know.
And it's like,
I know. I'm quick. I'm usually quick to
I feel like
apologize.
he put something in my heart, and it's like, oh, I can feel it.
And I'm usually quick to apologize, though,
Yes.
for real.
Yes, you are usually quick to apologize, and I appreciate that. Now, me, on the other hand, I will apologize, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take you to be my lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward.
From this day forward.
From this day forward.
Is that meaning for the rest of our lives until either you go to glory or I go to glory?
From this day forward.
From this day forward. Wow.
It means a couple things, right? From this day forward means that we are starting anew.
Anew. From this day forward. Okay.
Like we're starting fresh.
Fresh.
This is a new thing, a new mindset, a new day, a new perspective, a new life. From this day forward.
From this day forward, you get to handle my heart in a new way.
Absolutely. From this day forward.
From this day forward. I like it.
So we're not going back.
We're not going back. We moving ahead.
We're not going back to past relationships.
We're not bringing past relationships into the new. We are moving forward.
So that means I can't compare you to my last girlfriend.
That's right. I'm probably better anyway.
You can't compare me to your last man.
Oh, you way better. I can't though, but listen.
But see, that's the point. We're moving forward.
We moving
so
forward.
It really doesn't even matter.
It don't matter.
And see, that's why it's important, and this is a sidebar, right?
Okay.
This is a sidebar. There's a reason why God did not want men and women to have sex before marriage.
Okay.
The reason is because God knew that soul ties are formed, and we would bring those previous relationships and previous sexual encounters into the relationship that we are now saying we're one. So if I have a soul tie over here, right, that means I gave a portion of myself to this person. So I'm not coming into this marriage whole. That means I let something of myself go. And I took something of someone else, and now I'm bringing it to you.
Yeah.
And so when I'm sitting there looking at you like, I don't even recognize her. What is going on? It could be that other person. But for real though, I mean, that's the reality of it. That's why
reality.
That's why, we are supposed to wait until we're married before our first sexual encounter. Because often we bring those past relationships into it. Not only that, we bring those experiences and those encounters, and we may bring an expectation from that past relationship. So the way someone treated us sexually, we may bring that now into our marriage. And I may be looking for you to do something that somebody else did, when that's wrong of me.
Right.
So it's very important that we not bring the past into the present and the future. So that's why we say from this day forward. Meaning I didn't turn my back on the past. Guess what? That might mean I need to leave some friends in the past. some relationships in the past. And that's hard for some people.
That's hard for some people.
Because
But
it's like, that's my A1 since day one.
yeah, we had that situation where you wanted to bring some people into the now.
That's not true.
That's true.
No, because we dealt with that before we even got married. So that's not true.
Oh yeah, you got rid of them before we got
But
married.
the point is, we're not just talking about female friends, male. We just talking about friends in general.
Sometimes you gotta release some friends.
Sometimes you have to
Absolutely.
understand
Male and female.
that if we're not growing together, we're not going together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we're not growing together, we're not going together. That means if I'm growing in my life and you're not, then I may have to move on and give you space so that you have an opportunity to grow. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't come back or reach back for you. But if you're going to stunt my growth, if you're going to prevent me from doing all that God has called me to do and become all that God has called me to be, then I have to be willing to let that friendship go. With the understanding that if I continue to grow, eventually I'll be in a position where I can reach back and provide a helping hand if they want it. Sometimes we try to help people that don't want our help. And so if you're not growing with me, I'm sorry, but you're not going with me. It's important that we're growing together. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the same pace, but we both have to be growing together.
Either growing together or growing apart.
Either growing together or growing apart.
And I choose to grow with you.
Every day, all day, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Baby, baby. I take you to be my lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse.
Better for worse.
For better or worse. Or for worse.
Better.
For better or for worse.
Or for worse.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse.
It's funny because some people like to leave out certain parts. They're like, I'm not saying that. But what I think is it acknowledges the fact that we're in this together. And there is a strong possibility that it's not all going to be smooth sailing.
Oh, is it? Yeah. It's a very strong.
And I put that mildly. I just put that gently because
yes,
there's a high likelihood.
Yes, a high likelihood
That there are going to be some obstacles and adversity.
Mm-hmm.
There's a high likelihood that there's going to be some discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of, because we didn't get to ritual poor yet. Right now we're at better or worse. See, we always want the better. And it's okay with wanting the better.
But sometimes you got to go through the growing pains of the worse before you get to the better. And sometimes people don't want to go through the worst part before they can get to the better part. And that sometimes may be the process.
That's it. You hit the nail right on the head. Without process, we can't grow.
We can't grow. We need it.
We need it. Without difficult circumstances, we don't know who we are. We don't know what we're made of. If everything is easy, we never discover how strong we could be. So we need some of the bad times. But see, during the bad times, we have to be willing to commit to the process of growth, right? We got to be willing to embrace the process. See, the process is there to mature you. It's to grow you up, to build your character, to strengthen you, to teach you endurance, to teach you patience, to teach you perseverance, right? We go through adversity to actually see what we're made of.
Mm-hmm.
See, I believe that when God created us, he put everything we would ever need on the inside of us. But the only way we come to an understanding of what's on the inside of us is if it's actually pulled out of us.
Absolutely.
And the only way to pull it out is for those situations to come, those tests to come, those trials to come, to say, I'm strong and I'm committed to this no matter what we face.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I can say that we have we've gone through some difficult times, some things that has challenged us, some things that has caused us to grow. Um, yeah, that has caused us to grow. So there were moments, there were times. I just remember when we were starting our business, and uh, we didn't have a lot of clients. We wasn't making the money that we would have liked to make. We had to choose between paying us and paying our employees, and we chose to pay our employees, and you would like to say we became homeless. Those
Temporarily,
temporarily,
temporary,
yes, but those were some growing pains,
tough times.
and that was the tough times, because I just remember myself crying, like, is it going to always be like this? Is it going to get better? But even in all of that, even in that, the what I consider to be worst, like the bad, I never wanted to go. I never wanted to say I didn't want this anymore. I never felt like I don't want to be with him anymore. I never felt like that. I never felt that I needed to get out. I never wanted to get out.
That's a testament to our love, baby.
Yes.
Now, we should say, right, when we talk about better or worse, we're talking about difficult times, and sometimes there are struggles that we go through, especially when we're growing together, when we're becoming one, when we're getting rid of that singleness, right? That single mindset, and we're coming together as one. But we should highlight, and we don't want to minimize this in any way. When we say better or worse, worse does not mean physical abuse,
Right.
right? If you're
Right.
in a marriage
Absolutely.
and your spouse is physically abusing you, then you need to get out of that. You need to find a safe place, because that's not what God intended. And so, I want to be serious about that, because we do commit to our marriage, but there's no place for physical abuse in a
Right.
marriage.
Absolutely not.
So if that's you, find a safe place, find someone you can talk to, call the police if necessary, because your safety is important. So I take you to be my lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or for poorer.
Richer or poor.
That's the name of this podcast. And if you have not yet subscribed, now it's a great time to hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit that share.
Richer or yes.
For richer or poor.
Richer or poor.
We got a ton of stories
Oh
because
gosh.
we've all we've consistently and continuously had financial challenges in our marriage. And it didn't matter if we were in a bad space or a good space, right?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, there are always financial, what's a good word?
Difficulties.
Could present financial difficulties.
But
Because as you go through life, I'm sorry, sweetie,
no, you're fine.
but as you go through life, your financial situation changes.
It changes.
And so your financial problems change. You know, our financial problems right now is not the same financial problems we had 20 years ago.
Right. Right.
But that doesn't mean we don't have like financial issues that we have to address.
Right. So we may have financial issues that we have to address on the level that we are
Exactly.
now. So there may be some little things, some little kinks that may come up, but we always seem to manage to get through. I mean, it just is, and
Yeah. I mean, part of it is because of our belief system.
right,
Like we are believers, so we live, we operate, we breathe by faith. Like faith is our
that's our
faith is the air we breathe,
yes,
right? And so there are things we will do where others will look at us crazy because they're thinking like, why would you put yourself in that situation? And we're like, well, that's what God said. So we're gonna move by faith,
move by faith,
right?
no matter how crazy it looks.
I just think about there you talk about business. And so when we first got into business, um we made it a point to make sure that our staff was paid, right? And we weren't making very much money, but we did make enough to pay our staff. And so even during that time, as a business owner, you're always responsible for not only paying your staff, but you're responsible for employment taxes. And early on in business, we didn't always pay our employment taxes in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
And so, years had gone by and we figured out like this is something we need to do. And so, last year, I can remember last year, we get a notice from the IRS that we're being audited, right? In reference to employment taxes, business taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, because they were coming after us for a grip. It was a pretty penny,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm thinking like, oh, Father, like, this is crazy. That stuff happened so early on in business because it happened back in 2013, 2014. We're talking about 10 years ago. And the IRS is coming after us after 10 years, right? After we've been doing the right thing for the last 8-9 years, and they're coming after us for something we did 10 years ago. And so I'm like, all right, Father, like, please, we trust you. You know where we were early on in business. You know where we fell short and how we've grown. Not only how our business has grown, but how our character has grown and our level of integrity has grown, right? And so it's like, Father, we need you to meet this need because, at that time, I think I think the bill was it was well over six figures at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Well over six figures. And so I'm like, all right, Father, we need you to move in this situation. And sure enough, as we were going through the audit by the IRS, God provided the resources that we need to meet that need.
Cleared it.
He cleared it completely cleared it. Not only that, there was reserve left over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he did abundantly above all we could ask, think, or imagine. He completely wiped that bill clean, but then we had a surplus.
Yes.
Man, I can't tell you how good God is.
Only God could have
Only
done
God
that.
could do that.
Mm.
So, for rich or poor, we're in this thing together. There are going to be some times where things may financially be difficult, but we got to be locked in step.
Yeah.
We got to be locked in step. We got to be walking together, right?
Yeah.
And
then,
so, go
okay.
ahead, sweetie, go ahead.
Now I was going to say, even in that, the rich or poor, and it's not even just about the money, the money aspect of it. When we talk about richer or poor, we want us to be rich in our marriage. We want to be, as like you said, integrity. Our character to be rich, and our family to be rich, and everything about our marriage to be rich, like every area of our lives to be rich. And and we believe that we can have all of that.
Yeah.
We believe that we can have all of
I
that.
think you make a great point. You want to thrive in every area of your marriage
area.
and your family, right? And so after rich or poor, it says in sickness and health. And so, fortunately for us, we have been healthy.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank God.
absolutely. But for many people, sickness can rise up in a marriage.
Right.
And I think it's important to understand that love still has to be expressed even during that time when that person may not look like the person you married, right? They may not be able to do all the things that they were able to do in the beginning of the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It could be many issues.
Many issues. But we choose.
We choose to stay with it.
We choose to
because
keep going.
The beautiful thing about marriages is it's supposed to be a lifetime. And you have to understand that if something's going to last a lifetime, there are going to be trials. There are going to be peaks and valleys,
Yes.
right? There is going to be some sickness and health. I think back to the pandemic when, COVID was a serious issue. And not that it's still not, because you have some people that are still dealing with COVID. But I think back to
when you was telling me my tray outside
when
my
you
door.
got when you got sick with COVID, and you had to isolate, and I wasn't sick, and so me being the medical professional that I am, I still wanted to make sure you were good, but I still had to protect myself, right? Because I had to make sure that everybody in the house was good. And so I would get, I prepared your meals.
Prepared my meals.
I prepared your meals. Y'all hear that? Y'all heard her say it. I prepared her meals. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I cooked her meals, but I did prepare her meals.
And set it in front of the door.
I put it on a tray all nice and neat and pretty. And I slid it at the door and I knocked. I said, come get your food.
Like, where he at? Disappeared.
But I made sure you were good.
Yes, you did.
And so, but just still expressing that love during a time of sickness was important to me.
Right.
Like, it would have been wrong for me to think you would fend for yourself during that time, especially when you weren't feeling well, you were weak. You just needed me to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
I did that.
Yes, you did that. But when you're sick and you got a cold and you feel like
I'm not no baby.
you act like you had
Nah, I'm not.
wine.
That's not me. You got me mixed up.
No, you are
I'm not no
absolutely
baby when I
you
get
are
sick.
no you won't even confess that you are sick.
That's right.
So
We gonna keep it moving. I gotta get things done.
even if you laid up with your tea and all this stuff, you still won't confess that you're sick. But anywho,
All right. So for better or worse, rich or poor, in sickness and health, to love and to cherish. To love and to cherish. Love is an action word.
love is the action word.
It's not based on feelings.
Ooh, it's not based on feelings. You're so right.
Love is an action word. That means
We have to show,
I have to demonstrate it.
demonstrate.
You gotta
show.
demonstrate it. You can't just say it.
You gotta, yes, put some action behind it. You catering to me while I'm sick. That's love.
That's love.
That's love. That's love.
More than that.
Yeah, when we get into a disagreement and you forgive me or I forgive you,
that's love.
that's love.
You know what my favorite part is?
What?
Love keeps no record of wrongdoings.
Yes. And love covers a multitude of sins.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's love.
That's love.
Ooh.
And we keep record of no wrong. I'm not keeping record. If I forgive you, I'm not keeping record of that thing that I forgave you for. I'm not going to bring that thing back up. No, I forgave you for it, and I'm moving on to the next thing. I'm not holding on to it. I'm moving on to the next thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I can mess up from time to time.
I can too.
But the fact that you don't keep a list and check it twice.
We ain't holding no receipts.
No receipts over here.
No receipts. The receipts are going in the trash.
That's love.
That's love. That is love.
To love and cherish.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Cherish. I know I'm on my phone. I'm sorry.
Cherish.
To love and to cherish. Right? It goes back to what we talked about, to have and to hold. That means I'm going to protect what we have.
Yes.
That means anybody can't come up against what we have.
Nobody.
They can't come for you. If they come for you, they coming for me. And if they coming for me, I know for certain they coming for you. I ain't got no word. You cutting them off at the knees.
I will.
They better not come for me. They better not come for your baby, your sweetie.
No.
They come for your sweetie. That's it. It's on and popping.
Facts.
You standing on business. That's how they say it. 10 toes down. Standing on business.
Yeah, I mean, because as your spouse, we are to protect them. We are to cover them. We are to love them. I'm not letting nobody talk bad about my husband. You can't come for my husband. You can't, in no shape, no form. No shape or no form.
Tell him.
Don't do it.
Tell him. Tell him.
We just say something about you wreck yourself, but anyway.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
That's right. So you can't. Don't do it.
We almost to the end. Forsaking all others.
Forsaking all others. Meaning,
We exclusive, baby.
yeah, that's it.
Exclusivity over here.
Exclusive. Yes.
I've chosen to marry you and you've chosen to marry me.
Yeah, we in it together.
We in it to win
If
it.
ain't nobody else in it, we in it.
We in it.
And the thing about it is, we're not looking for nobody else to be in it. It's you and me.
You and me.
You and me.
That's why our relationship is more important than my relationship with those children.
Yes, it is.
Cause they gonna go.
They gonna go.
They gonna grow up and go one day.
They gonna grow. They gonna go. Remember, who was that asked? If you had to choose between mommy, who was that?
That was your daughter, my daughter, our daughter.
If you had, what she asked you? If you had to choose between mom and me, who would you choose?
Hands down, you all day, every day, baby, baby.
Because
hands down,
it's God first,
God first,
your spouse, and everything else, family and everything else.
Family and everything else. So them children come after you, cause they grow up and leave. So I mean, I'm trying to help you out. You know, you want to get to know your spouse. You want to continue to grow and love with your spouse. And sometimes when we have children, we put the children first.
Yeah, you don't choose your children over your spouse.
And it's not that we're going to neglect the
We
children.
ain't going to neglect them,
No, but
no.
they grow up one
My
day.
husband comes before my children, and I love, love, love my children. But my husband comes before my children.
That's right. And then the last thing, till death do us part. And we talked about the importance of a covenant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand covenant is not only between a man and a woman, but it's between that man, woman, and God, the only way to break a covenant is death.
Mm.
And so we end the vow with "to death do us part," because we're not trying to get out of the covenant we have together. We're not looking for a loophole.
We're not looking for a loophole.
When things get hard, we're not looking for the loophole.
Mm-mm.
When the finances aren't right, we're not looking for the loophole.
Mm-mm.
When someone comes against you, I'm not looking for the loophole. It's till death do us part.
Till death do us part. We rolling until the wheels fall off.
Roll until the wheels fall off.
One of our wheels fall off.
Then we just have to use the spare, baby, baby. If you haven't clicked that subscribe, now is a great time to click subscribe, click like, click share. We hope we didn't bore you with our stories, with our laughter, with our love. This is Ritual Poor Marriage Podcast. Be blessed, family.
Peace.